Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guest tonight is Fayna Sanchez and Clarke Wolfe. How's it going, guys?
Hi, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. And it's actually Fayna.
I'm sorry, Fayna.
No
I'm
worries.
bad. You can kick my butt after this, but I'm bad. Fayna, sorry.
No worries.
I just watched the indie horror feature, Tenants, which was very good. I loved all the stories, but my favorite was your guys' short story where you guys played roommates. So, how'd you guys both become part of Gracie and Belinda?
Fayna, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, this was a real labor of love with friends. So Buzz and Mary approached Clarke and I, because Clarke and I are very good friends in real life. So they approached us with this idea of two roommates, and I don't want to speak, obviously for both of us, but it was so great to be able to come to these characters together as friends so that we could really kind of push Gracie and Belinda to the max. And we had a lot of conversations about doing that. And so we came at it, I think we came at it like from a really friendly place and a trustworthy place to be able to push these characters and make the fights as epic as we could.
Yeah, and I think that Buzz and Mary, when they were developing this, because Need Anything is actually an award-winning short film that they created during COVID, much different tone, their original version is this like very Hitchcockian kind of tense thriller, and so they wanted to go in a completely opposite direction as they reimagined it for the anthology. And fortunately for us, they wrote for us. So being good friends in real life, not only Fayna and I being good friends in real life, but Buzz, Mary, Fayna, and I being good friends in real life, it was really great that they wrote to our strengths. And I think that really comes across in the finished product.
I'll have to say to you guys, your rent is due, bitches. Hey, I had to say that, man. That was a funny line. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when did we get to like be able to have these words, these like epic lines, and like soaking is not washing? Like, come on. It's so much fun to be able to have those incredible lines and ground them in this like complete absurd world. And I think that for me, being able to look at, to have a scene partner that is going to go there with you with this epic, absurd world. For me, I think that's why it works so well, so that we could like really commit to lines like that, and bring that world to life.
So, Clarke, when you guys were on the set together and on scene together, killing each other, did you guys also ad-lib a little bit too?
I didn't actually. I think we stuck to the script pretty closely. I think that fight is almost it's wordless in a lot of ways too. I think that the action sort of speaks for itself, and that fight sequence was heavily choreographed. Buzz was very good, not only as a director but as a producer too, making sure that we were going to be safe. Safety was of the utmost importance. So Fayna and I knew exactly what our moves were. We had practiced. We had we had choreographed it weeks in advance. And so yeah, actually, funny enough, not a ton of improv on this one.
I could so see it, but that's good you might go to the script. I mean, if I was in a film like that, like killing my best friend roommate, I'd be coming up with some clever sayings.
Yeah, I think during that oneer where Gracie is hiding, there are maybe a couple of lines that I improvised, and that was, of course, with Buzz and Mary's full blessing, which I think also just makes sense as you're seeing Belinda sort of just like the mask flips and, how she really feels kind of comes erupting out before Gracie finds her.
So, how much fun did you guys have with the special effects and being covered with tons and tons of blood? What was going through your guys' mind through all that ordeal?
Well, I really have been waiting for a role to get bloody. Like, I was really kind of like manifesting a bloody role, and boy, did we get it. So, I mean, it was equal parts a blast. I mean, it's so much fun to because that just adds on more life to your character and an element of challenge to the day. So it's so much fun. But yeah, people don't really talk about how hard it is to also be covered in sticky, gooey blood all day and not having the time to wash it off and reset. And, you have to really just kind of stay like that for the whole day. So I think it was equal parts for me anyway. It was really, really fun. I loved every second of it, but also, it's no joke.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I think I had just finished a movie called Malum, and while I wasn't covered in blood, I was covered in body paint and goo that made us shiny and wet. And all night. And there was a lot of night shoots, and we had a bag on our head, and it was a lot. So I kind of had a feeling of what we were going to be in for. And, I think it was kind of funny, like, I love being like on the set and interacting with everybody while we're working. But there were a couple of moments where I was just like, I just need to sit quietly for a minute. I'm not being rude. While you all are setting up, I'm just going to sit right here and not move. And because it's just like you're expending so much energy, not only in the performance and in the fight choreography, but just to move, because your skin, the folds, like everything is just sticking together. Fayna had this hilarious moment with her hair that I will never forget.
Yeah, the last shot, we're laying on the ground. We've exhausted ourselves with this fight. We're both covered in blood, and filmmaking, they needed us to move like an inch to the left or something. And I was like, okay. But as Clarke said, we're both in this like meditative, it's the end of the day. We've been like this for 12 hours. So we're just quietly laying there, and he asks me to move an inch, and I get up from the carpet, and it was literally like my whole backside was made of Velcro. It was just like move over and then back down into the position.
One of the worst sounds I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That's funny. Let's go back to you, Clarke. Your character, she really scared the living tar out of me, man. I mean, in some scenes, you got so intense with some of the weaponry, man. It's like you were like really a pro and like you really did this like in real life or something. You were really getting at it with some weaponry in that film.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will tell you that I love playing villains. I love playing a bad guy. Of course, the character often doesn't think that they are a bad guy. But I really, really love these types of parts. I really love the duality of people. I love the psychology of someone like Belinda, who is so controlled and regulated and just always trying to do quote unquote the right thing, even if it is just, it's so inauthentic. And I've always been fascinated, not by people who are that extreme, but growing up in the South, I've always been fascinated by girls and women who wake up every day and do their hair every day and do their makeup every day and put on nice outfits every day. They could be just going to the grocery store, and we are talking about fully put together. I am not built like that. I'm just not built like that. But I've always kind of had this secret striving to be that kind of person. And spoiler alert, it hasn't worked. But that's one of the reasons I truly, really loved playing unhinged Belinda, because it was all that psychology that I've thought about my entire life, especially for girls and women, that it was just it was so fun.
Yeah, thank goodness Belinda didn't see any wire hangers in her closet.
That's right. Otherwise, someone would get smacked.
Like, is there how I'm going to say this? Are there a Belinda and Gracie in real life between you guys? You guys have a little bit of Gracie and Belinda in you sometimes in real life?
Well, like Clarke said, I think that, Buzz and Mary had us in mind when they wrote this. And so I feel like this is like maybe Clarke and I on steroids or like on steroids plus. So, because I think that that's why they're very smart to kind of put us in these roles. We don't fight that way. But I definitely think that there's definitely like a lot of comparisons between Belinda and Gracie and Fayna and Clarke.
I will also say that I have some Gracie in me for sure. There are times when I will come home and I will be like, do frat bros live here? Like, Clarke, get it together. If anyone walked into this apartment right now. Actually, that happened just the other day. My landlords needed to come in because they needed the electrician to look at the electric panel. I had just gotten home from a trip. My apartment was crazy. Dishes everywhere, laundry, like just nuts. And I was just like, oh my God, they're here. And I couldn't clean up. It was wild. And I've totally been that roommate who steals people's food. I've done that 100%. So I got a little bit of both.
I'm picturing that in my head right now of Clarke, going, say what? Okay, Fayna and Clarke, if you guys got together and wrote like a horror film or a horror short, what type of horror would it be, and what type of characters would you play in it if you decided to write yourselves into the film?
That's a great question. And I feel like Clarke and I have already like talked about a gazillion scripts together.
We have. We really have. We've talked about so many short film ideas. I'm personally fascinated by women in a group dynamics between women, and not in like a simple catfight kind of way. Just like I'm I'll give you an example. I have been in a lot of weddings. I know Fayna has. We've been in a lot of weddings lately, but I have gone on so many bachelorette weekends with total strangers. Like, I only know the bride, and then all of a sudden here are 9 women crammed in a room sharing beds, like, just because this is the weekend that we're eating together, showering, like having to share each other's space. And I am so fascinated by those dynamics. I think that there's really something to those heightened situations with groups of women. So that's probably something that I would love to delve into. Fayna and I have talked about an idea like that, actually. But yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Dude, I would so pay to see that if you guys are like writing it and all that. I think that would be so great. I'd be sitting there in the theater just laughing my ass off, and then you have like all these other regular film goers who don't watch that much horror be like, "What's he laughing at? That's not funny."
All right, we sold 1 ticket, Fayna. We can do
perfect.
It.
Yep, absolutely.
Fayna, you also did a screenplay that you just did too. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that's kind of, it's funny that Clarke mentioned the story about women in groups, because that's actually that's like part of what this is as well. I also am fascinated by women, and I'm fascinated by, as I get older, I think a lot of, at least a lot of horror that I grew up with was younger female stories or younger women. And as I'm aging, I'm more interested in telling adult women's stories. I'm not bashing any of the younger folks. I'm just saying that I am interested in telling stories about women in their midlife. And so my story is surrounding that. It's surrounding women in their 40s. And I don't think I've ever been more excited about a project that I've been writing. So, but that's all I can say because it's not ready. It's not ready yet. So it's a little secret that I'm keeping close to the vest.
Oh, you have my attention.
You'll know more next year.
Oh, you'll have my attention. I hope it's at some film festivals because I cover a lot of film festivals as well. And, I now you got my attention. Now I'm going to be thinking about it after I get off. It's like, I wonder what's so twisted. So in this film, will Clarke have a cameo?
Of course, duh. Of course.
Hey,
anything you want, sign me up. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay, a question for you, Clarke. What does horror mean to you?
That's a great question. I used to host a show called Collider Nightmares, which was like a version of, Collider movie talk, but specifically skewing towards horror, right? But we very specifically called it Nightmares because I prefer the term genre. Horror, sci-fi, fantasy, thriller, exploitation, supernatural, like slasher. It's all, I think, in this wonderful stew that I just don't think is like, it's simplified. I don't think it can be simplified into like one thing. So what does horror mean to you? I think it's anything that can give you nightmares. And that can be anything, right? That can be bugs, that can be demonic possession, that can be a job interview, that can be, epic mythical battle like the Lord of the Rings. I don't know, like Sauron. Who can say? So anything that can give you nightmares. That's how I have chosen to define horror.
What about you, Fayna?
Oh, that is a really, really great question. I think much like Clarke, I really love that that explanation because I think for me, what gets me really going about the genre and why it's my favorite kind of genre is the reason I do what I do has always been to elicit feeling. I want to make you feel something. I want to make you, and whether that's laughter or sadness or fear or whatever, I want to elicit a reaction. That's why I do what I do. And so horror genre, whatever you want to say, that is a wonderful device to elicit feeling, like real deep, passionate feeling. So much like Clarke, I think it lives in that world, whatever it elicits, because I think for me, it also kind of envelops all the other genres, like comedy, drama, all of that. So I think for me, it's that eliciting a strong response.
That's a good answer. Also, indie horror has been on fire lately because you're seeing certain indie horror films, like at the big screen, like In a Violent Nature, which I loved. I mean that pretzel move or however they did that. I was trying to figure that out. It's like, how did they do that? And that must have had to hurt. They must have had to study a lot of yoga just to get in that position.
Absolutely, method pretzels. Yeah, I think too. Here's the thing. Like, it's harder. So how do I say this? You just, now is the time to take risks creatively, I think, because of our industry, I am convinced, will be around forever. Mm-hmm. However, it is going to shift. It is going to evolve. It is going to change. And we are happening to be going through one of those huge evolutions right now. And so I think that however you can get it made, if you can get it made, it's a great opportunity there is a great opportunity right now for indie horror and indie filmmaking in general. Mm-hmm. But now's the time. It's like if not now, when? I don't know when.
Right. Yeah, and I think also something that I feel very strongly about is horror gives you the opportunity to tell real kind of stories. And I think that it's not a coincidence that the genre has picked picked up speed. We all kind of lived through a really horrific experience globally together. And I don't think it's a coincidence that more and more people are kind of putting themselves out there with real stories that have real emotions and grief and horror and all of that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that audiences are reacting to that, because throughout the last few years, we've all kind of had to face our own horrors, our own mortality, our own fear. And so I think that now it's kind of like people are eating it up, because it's finally like, oh, this is real life, and it's good to laugh at it. It's good to put it in a visual place, to make it beautiful, to make it scary. So I think that's what like really excites me, is that people are kind of moving from a place of like looking down on the genre to actually, this is a genre of truth telling of all life, not just the pretty stuff. That's what gets me excited about it.
I do too. I know a lot of filmmakers who've also made films, and they use it from their trauma and, their abuse and through their life, which it makes it so real, authentic, and intimate, which I like, because, it's like, okay, I got all these frustrations, or, I've been through this trauma. I'll just write it out and make it into a horror film just to get it out.
Absolutely. And then it becomes a healing experience, not only for the filmmaker, but then for people who are watching it, and for me, that's kind of like, that's what art is, not to get, silly about things or woo-woo about things, but that is the art. That's the artistry in it.
Well, and it's one of my favorite things in Tenants is the through line of, as an adult, you get to a place where you're like, this is not how my life was supposed to go. And I think that is the most human, like one of the most human realizations that you can have. And it's true for every single little segment. Every single one, that is the through line. Even the name of our wraparound, you're not supposed to be here. I just love that. So I think, it kind of just dovetails over what you both have just been saying, but it's like, it is the realest of the real. The scariest thing is you wake up one day and you're like, how did I get here? And in the case of Tenants, literally, how did Mary's character get here?
I loved Mary's character. I mean, she like nailed that. You really felt what she was going through, looking for like a loved one. And the cool thing I loved about her role in the film is I'm a fan of like cinematography and camera shots. And I love, the hallway shot scenes, how it was shot in a certain angle, and you used the music a little bit to be part of the character of what she was going through, and all the red, and the red, the dark, and all the schemes for the different atmosphere and attitude through the whole film, which really made it great for, for her segment, which I really liked.
Oh yeah, they did a phenomenal job. I really love the wraparound. I think Mary is a phenomenal actress, and she is the heart. She's the beating heart of the film. And yeah, those hallway shots are so scary. I can't get over the dark one with the eyes.
Oh yeah, that was a trip. Okay. That was brilliant.
So good.
So good. So good. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think Mary looks like that actress Alicia Witt?
I don't know who that is.
She was in Longlegs. She was in she was in Urban Legend.
And she was in The Walking Dead?
Yes, and she was in she was in 2 Weeks Notice.
Yes.
With my favorite person, Sandra Bullock.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I do. Alicia Witt's a beautiful woman, and so is Mary. And they both are fair-skinned, red-headed beauties.
Yeah, starlets. Perfect faces.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, man, I'm just imagining this is Alicia Witt, but it's really Mary. I mean, she, like I said, she nailed the role. I mean, her and Buzz, they just made this. I'm a big fan of the anthology films. So some of the anthology films I've seen, this would be in my top 5 favorite anthology films of, this year. I've seen a lot, but it would be up there, and I just loved it, and I hope it gets a distribution. I hope it comes out on Blu-ray because I'm a strong supporter of physical media, and I want it in my film library. Damn it!
Thank you so much. That's very, very kind. I love that. I hope, I want a physical copy as well.
I do. And then I'm going to get married. I'm going to have you guys all sign it.
Yes, that's right. If we get a physical release, we're going to be at Dark Dells. You're not going to be able to stop us from signing those things. We're just going to knock on your door.
You're going to be like, you're going to sign it now. No, you guys are going to be in your roles as, Gracie and Belinda, and you're going to be knocking on doors. You're going to be like, it's like, you're going to let us in now.
I love it.
Fayna, I loved your outfit in the film, man. You were rocking that little rock t-shirt. I just love that outfit. It was just so retro and cool, man.
Well, it's funny actually. One of our directors, Sean Messler, he was actually in a very popular metal band, and that is one of his T-shirts. So so that's like kind of a little tie-in to him. That was a real band shirt, and I actually have it. I kept my bloody shirt and I framed it, and it's hanging in my bathroom.
Oh, in the bathroom. That's a good place to hang it, in the bathroom. So I can just see somebody doing their business. It's like, oh, look, I'm looking at a bloody rock shirt while I'm doing my business.
It's the little things in life.
I know you guys took a picture together when you guys were all bloodied up, and I can see Clarke have a picture framed right in her mantle at her place. I know she does.
Oh yeah, I do. I actually do have posters. We had this really great variant poster that was just for Need Anything. That's with the mug and it says #blessed on it, and I have that framed. And I actually am looking at my Tenants poster right there. So I have all my memorabilia for sure all over. And
then in your like shirt you guys were in, how you guys were playing off. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of, have you guys ever seen the films or the TV series The Highlander a little bit?
Oh, I think I know what you're getting at.
Yeah.
And yes, I see the comparison for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Fayna, you need to watch the original Highlander. I'm telling you, you will love it. And then after that, you'll be looking at Clarke and be getting another like fight, and you're going to be saying, there only can be one, and it's going to be me.
That's right.
Oh, I will put it on my list. I will put it on my watch list for sure.
And another question for you, Clarke. You like Deborah Hill?
I do like Deborah Hill. I am a big fan.
Oh yeah. So what got you? I mean, the two horror films that got me into horror was the original Phantasm and the original Halloween. So, what got you? Into Deborah Hill. I mean, she was a genius. She was brilliant. But what got you into Deborah Hill?
It was, when I was just starting in sort of the movie talk space, and I was getting into the horror world. I was always a horror fan. I always loved I always loved the movies. But I was like getting immersed in this like culture. And so I was reading all of these, and I was a film student. I went to film school, and I was reading all of these books. There was like this swath of books that came out. James Marriott wrote a book for Virgin Books called Horror Films, and then there was Shock Value, and there was Real Terror, and it was all about the history of horror movies. And I noticed that this woman's name like kind of kept popping up, and it was Deborah, and it was usually one or two lines. That was just like, and she was the script supervisor on Assault on Precinct 13, and then she started dating John Carpenter, and then she, produced this movie. And I was like, okay. And then you start to unravel or figure out, like, no, that's completely disrespectful to Deborah Hill's legacy. Deborah Hill hired Dean Cundy. She was the money manager she was advocate for casting Jamie Lee Curtis, not only for her performance, but for the stunt casting and the influence of her mother in Psycho. She wrote all of the women's parts, essentially, to make them sound more authentic. Like, it's Deborah's hands. Like, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I guess my point is, it is not as simple as she was John Carpenter's girlfriend. And I was offended on Deborah's behalf that was the legacy that these authors were writing in horror history. So that's how I first learned about her. And then over time, I don't know Gail Ann Hurd super well, but she was a protege of Deborah. And, you meet people throughout this industry, legacy women especially, who, if they knew Deborah Hill changed their lives. And so I had the joy to be involved in a documentary called Hollywood Trailblazer, The Deborah Hill Story, which we are hoping will have a world premiere at South by Southwest in 2025. So fingers crossed. But yes, that is a long answer to get to how I became a fan of Deborah Hill.
I've been waiting for that documentary, and my dream is, I covered a lot of film festivals, and the film festival you just mentioned, I want to cover that so bad. That's on my bucket list, just to go there. Because besides horror, I love horror a lot, but I'm also big into, action and sci-fi too. That's my other cup of tea. So, Fayna, in the indie horror film industry right now, you see more and more female writers and directors getting more into indie horror, and it's getting real popular. So, So what do you think about that? How you're seeing more women writing and directing more horror, and they write some crazy stuff, which is good. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, all the women with all the stories and give them all the money. And I'm a big fan. Obviously, I like Clarke. We share a lot of the same sentiments. I think that I'm excited of where I'm seeing things, like I have a festival coming up. I have a few festivals coming up, and I'm excited by the programs because I'm seeing more and more female directors getting taken seriously, and not just not just kind of the way that things have kind of been in the past, where you have 90% of the films are men, and then they throw one token female actor in there. No, I'm seeing more and more and more women, directors, writers, producers, and I'm wildly excited. I would be remiss to say if I didn't mention I'm in a film that's premiering next month at Brooklyn Horror, and it was written and directed and produced and completely captained by a woman named Izzy Lee. And she is she's been in this world for a really long time. She's been hustling in this industry for a really long time, and it's really exciting to watch her get her first feature made, and that people are excited by it. And so, I'm wildly proud and excited to see where indie horror is going specifically, because it has been a man's game for a while, or presentingly, because we've always been here. But now it's exciting to finally see some excitement and buzz and energy coming behind the women who have been here for a really long time, wanting to get their films made.
I love it. So where can everybody find you guys on social media to see what you guys are doing next? And what are your next projects?
You can find... Sorry. No. You go first.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram, Fayna.bo.Fayna, Fayna Bobina on Instagram. And like I said, I have a feature coming out, world premiering at Brooklyn Horror, called House of Ashes. And hopefully more screenings for that will be coming in the next few months. And Clarke?
Yay! And she is the lead of that movie. It is like her movie. So I'm just, we got to point that out. So you can find me at Clarke Wolfe, Clarke with an E, Wolfe with an E on, all the things. I'm around, also on TikTok. And I actually there's an announcement coming. I'm teaming up with one of my dear friends, Sam Levine, best known from Freaks and Geeks and Inglourious Bastards and a million other things, for something that I will be directing and we'll be producing together. So we're going to be making announcements about that in November. So please stay tuned. Follow us on the socials, because we're going to need everyone's help. But it is horror and it is fun, and I'm so excited for what we have in store. So I think it's going to be worth your while to stay tuned.
So, also, when does Tenants come out so people can see it?
It's out now!
Yay! I was waiting for you guys to ask that. That's why I asked. You got to mention Tenants. You got to mention Tenants.
Yeah, go rent it. Go buy it. Amazon, Prime, Apple, Vudu. Tell your friends.
Oh, eventually it'll probably pop on Tubi sometime too, right?
We'll see. But yeah, if you are interested in supporting filmmakers and indie filmmakers, this is real indie. This is real. It's like real indie. And I'm so proud to be a part of it, but also really proud of all the people that work behind the scenes, because they worked their butts off. And so please support the film to support them, really, I think.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on out of your busy schedules to have a blast with me tonight.
This is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, hey, it's my pleasure. Everybody have a great evening, and thank you for listening to